Getting to the Root. That's my organization that I created in college. We'll talk about that another time. Today, we're going to talk about escapism because your girl has been going through it. And honestly, I wasn't going to make this video. Our world leaders disappoint the fuck out of me. And honestly, I never really believed in them, if I'm being honest. And that's a discussion for another day. I know that I am the creator and the timekeeper, of my reality. And I'm the one that decides how my future is gonna go. So I'm not putting it in the hands of the government and things like that, but I don't wanna get on a tangent. Why we're here today is to really talk about escapism. For me, well, let me just tell you what escapism is, and then we'll get into how it's shown up into my life. So, according to Very Well Health, escapism is when a person routinely uses an activity or behavior to escape life's realities. It is a way of distracting the mind. And so that could be social media, that could be binge watching shows, that could be unnecessarily spending, it could be drugs, alcohol, sex, it could be just avoiding thinking about something or a task. And escapism can be very scary because you could do it in an unhealthy way and then you could do it in a healthy way. For me, I've noticed that the way that I escape is through spending unnecessarily, binge watching movies and shows. And I know that I have so much shadow work to do, so much journaling, so much reflecting, and I will avoid it because I don't want to feel those pains or have those feelings resurface. And ultimately, unsuppressing or not suppressing those emotions is for my highest good because it would help me like really overcome some things I've been struggling with. But and I find that I lose time. Like if I'm aimlessly scrolling on Twitter or aimlessly scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, like I will lose time and I'm like, what the fuck, where did the time go? So it's crazy, and I don't know. Does that sound familiar to you? Does that sound like you? So there were times where I felt like I wanted to do something, like I wanted to read, I wanted to journal, I wanted to meditate, and even work. And I would literally put it off to the last minute and avoid, and it really wasn't good for me. Like, and I'm noticing that now. Even buying matchas, like they're good, but they're not that good. And for me, it was soothing, comforting. And I realized, and I've did my research, it's way more healthier than a coffee. But in reality, I was avoiding the deeper work at hand. Even avoiding the gym. Like I have gained some weight, and it's not noticeable, but I notice it, and it just didn't sit right with me. And I had to figure out, like, what am I avoiding? You know, it just felt like I was in a never-ending cycle, a loop, and I was like avoiding uncomfortable truths that needed to be addressed. And so in this era of my life, like I'm all about self-mastery and like being my best self. And that doesn't mean that there's no room for error or mistakes. But I mean, if I'm self-aware to know that I'm avoiding something, then that means it's painful and it needs to be addressed. So now I'm gonna tell you how you can overcome escapism. And I have my notes here because honestly, I feel like this is an important topic. Like, our generation, like, has been going through it a lot. And if it's not our world leaders, if it's not the media, it's always something. And I feel like it's only natural for you to want to escape because you're like, what the hell is going on? You're trying to soothe those feelings and trying to figure out, like, how can I feel better? Because honestly, I feel like the world, like, everyone knows what's going on, but I feel like they're acting like it's not happening until shit really hits the fan, and then everybody's like mass hysteria. So the way to stop, or I would say overcome escapism, is really like identifying your triggers. Like, I have 4 steps. So one is identifying your triggers. So for me, when I get overwhelmed or I feel like I don't know what to do next, I'll automatically turn to social media, like really binge watch shows. Like, that's a mindless activity. And the thing is, in order to cope with that, like, I could put self-timers on. I can limit the time that I'm watching those shows or doing that mindless activity. And I feel like once you identify those moments, you'll, see, hey, I'm avoiding something. Like, this needs to be addressed. The second one is replacing escapism with intentional action. So for things like scrolling or watching movies, like I said, take a break, short breaks in between. So if I catch myself scrolling for hours, I'll set a timer for 15 minutes. I'll walk, and kind of replace that maybe with an exercise. Like, as soon as I catch myself scrolling, be like, I think it's time for me to, like, work out. The third step that I have is to reconnect with your true priorities. For me, my true priorities is focusing on going to the gym and my shadow work. And instead of avoiding shadow work, I need to set time for journaling, for my meditation, and really tackle these things because it's like a reoccurring thing. It keeps coming up. And I get it. It's like easy to fall into those cycles. So easy to fall into those habits, but like, you're really delaying your process of healing. And no one's gonna put I'm not putting a timestamp on when I'm healing, but I just don't want this to turn into years. I don't want it to turn into years. I don't want it to turn into months. Before you know it, like, you'll have time blindness, and then you're looking around and you're like, wow, I'm this age and I still haven't addressed my shit. So yeah, I think that's how to stop or overcome escapism. It really starts with making those small shifts and having self-awareness. So yeah. Life has been life, and I can't even lie. Like, and no matter how much you try to outrun yourself, God will always show you who you really are. And it can show up in your life. It can show up in just everything. There's no escaping self. You got to address him or her sooner than later. So I would like to know, what's your form of escapism? And what actionable steps do you think you can take to change that? Or what can you start to replace it with something that, like, brings you closer to your goals, So this is me. And this is me just sharing a little bit of how life is right now for me, and me just being self-aware, being transparent about how life is, because But thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I'm glad I recorded this video because I was not gonna do it. And I've been sitting on this idea for a minute now because it really came onto my spirit. And I'm just like, why the hell am I not trying to get me right? You know why? Because it's so easy to do that. It's so easy to avoid self and not address things or traumatic experiences that show up in your life or triggers. But the only thing that it's going to affect is you, your relationships, your lineage, your bloodline, and we're trying to fix some stuff here. So